Hello, Husker fans. Sam McKewon along with Abby Barmore with the Omaha World-Herald. Big Red Today and Omaha.com. Well, scrimmage number 3, the last scrimmage before the spring game. In media parlance, that's the scrimmage that we all wish we could see, right? Because that's the big scrimmage. Well, we'll see what happens in the spring game. But as for the scrimmage today, the last scrimmage before the spring game, the offense didn't have a good day. No, not a good day really at all. The two offensive coaches who talked to us today, Greg Austin and Sean Beckton, said it was not up to their standards. They were frustrated. They did not like the execution. They feel like the defense came out with more energy to start the practice and that they basically controlled that scrimmage. Now, look, that's not that uncommon when you've got a team that has essentially 10 returning starters on defense, and it's spring, and defenses tend to be ahead in the spring. So it's not that uncommon for the defense to do really, really well. But you could tell by the coaches' reactions today, and also the length of time that Scott Frost talked to the team on the field, that it wasn't what they were looking for. They're probably looking for a little bit better give and take. We also saw the Nebraska quarterbacks out here carrying footballs and kind of running, what do you want to call them, across the field gassers for a while. So I don't know what kind of day they had. We're not going to be talking to anybody until next Monday, so we won't know publicly exactly how much they struggled probably until then when we talk to Scott Frost. But that's what happened today. It sounded like the defense got the better of it in the scrimmage. The offensive line, Greg Austin said, was kind of hot and cold, had some good moments, struggled at times as well. As a result, he wants more out of that group. We talked to a bunch of offensive linemen today, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first, Abby, I wanted to go to you. You listened to tight ends coach Sean Beckton. He talked a little bit about the offensive scrimmage, but he also talked about some of the tight ends that are maybe a little lower on the depth chart that'll be of great interest to Husker fans.
Yeah, he talked a lot about Thomas Fidone and how he was doing, and even though the offense wasn't up to their standards today, he thought that Fidone did really well. Caught 4 to 5 passes that were really impressive, and he actually said he put his arm around him and walked Fidone off the field and told him how proud he was of how hard he's working and how well he did today. And he said, the sky's the limit for this kid, and he can impact our team this year. He's going to do good things for our team this season. And then also, Chris Hickman moved back over to tight end. He was a tight end when he came in from Omaha Burke, and then they moved him back out to wide receiver. But when Kurt Rafdal hit the transfer portal, he moved back over to the tight end room, but he kind of, slimmed down to keep his speed for wide receiver, so they're trying to put more weight back on him, maybe 15 to 20 pounds, trying to, beef him up, but, keep his speed a little bit. And he said that, Sean Beckton said that something with Hickman is that even if he's going up against a 300-pound guy, he still wants to move him. He's really aggressive. He doesn't shy away from those battles, and so he's really excited to see what he's doing. And then he's also taking on more of a little bit of a leadership role and working really closely with Thomas Fidone and trying to help him, understand the offense and also take coaching well. And then also, a little bit about Austin Allen, that he could be an NFL guy if he's on this path that he's going, and he's been, doing really good in practice, and, they're trying to work a little bit more on his blocking and, working through the blocks, but he thinks that he could, do really well this season and then have a long career ahead of him.
Yeah, Allen and Vokalek both could probably play in the NFL. It's interesting that Hickman is, to some degree, I don't know what you want to call it, a little bit of a victim of Nebraska's struggles at wide receiver, and so I think they thought maybe they could move him out there as a big wide receiver, as an adjuster guy, and they could put him out there, and he could help there. It could be a little bit of an H-back. Now Nebraska appears to actually have the receivers that they want, and bigger guys that they like, and they now have the flexibility to move Hickman back in, and I suspect he's going to be a pretty good tight end if he can put that weight back on. On the offensive line, interesting conversations today with Greg Austin. It felt like he went through just about everybody, except Cam Jurgens, who everybody knows he's the starting center. At those guard spots, they're rotating essentially 4 guys. On the left side, they're rotating Ethan Piper and Brock Bando. On the right side, they're rotating Matt Sichterman and Brant Banks. First time I think we've talked to Sichterman at any length in some time. He's pretty good. He's going to graduate in May with his degree in software engineering. Brock Bando and Brant Banks both said he's the smartest offensive lineman on the team, and as a fifth-year junior, remember the COVID allowances allow you to have that extra year. Sichterman has taken a vocal leadership role in that room, and Greg Austin was very honest. He said, I wasn't sure how he was going to do this spring. Matt Farniok being gone, how he was going to do since he had been a career backup, but Austin said he's been pretty impressed with Sichterman's ability to move guys around. Banks has been moved to that guard spot, I think, specifically to compete with Sichterman. What's interesting is that Banks is really tall. I mean, he's probably 6'7", former basketball player. They haven't had a lot of tall guards like that since Zach Sterup, but that was back in 2015. And so with Banks, he's just having to learn to get low, and it's not always easy to do when you're facing somebody who's 6'3", and DeAndre Thomas, and 6'2", and Damian Daniels. Those guys come off the ball hard, and they're low. And so Banks has had to really learn to get low and try to get pad level, and I think that's been an adjustment for him. Austin also mentioned that Banks is working at tackle, and I think that's notable because I asked a couple of different people today about the progress of Turner Corcoran, and I would say it'd be fair to say that Austin's comments were, brief. He's doing a good job, but he's still making the kind of mistakes that young guys make. Austin mentioned Nuruddin Nouili, the transfer from Colorado State, the German foreign exchange student who played here in Lincoln, then went to CSU, then came back to Nebraska. He said he's moving along. Ezra Miller, the transfer from Iowa, he's moving along. Banks is also at that tackle spot. Those 5 guys are the guys that sound to be working at tackle. It didn't sound like Kirk Corcoran was maybe making quite as much progress as they had absolutely hoped prior to spring. But again, that could just be today. Might have had a bad day. Might have just been today's spring scrimmage. We will learn a lot more in that spring game. On that left side, Brock Bando working against Ethan Piper. Piper was the starter last year, but Bando, a 5th-year senior, can work a little bit of tackle, work a little bit of guard, has kind of been around the block and is trying to get things done there. That backup center spot looks like it's going to be Trent Hickson, so he'll be the guy behind Juergens. I think Hickson has kind of progressed and said that he progressed a little bit. We also had kind of a surprise interviewee today in Connor Culp, who did not participate in the Saturday practice. Don't know if he participated in today's scrimmage, but was the All-Big Ten kicker last year. Only All-Big Ten player Nebraska had last year. And Abby, you talked to him.
He actually said that he did practice today, that he just had a tweak that just kept him out of that live scrimmage that we had. He's a very even-keel guy. It seems like nothing really bothers him, which is really good for a kicker. You want someone that is, pretty level-headed and not affected that much by outside noises. But he did say that he has adjusted to having no fans, but he's really excited to have fans in the stadium and that they kind of provide that white noise that helps him, focus and kick better. And also, talking a little bit about how the wind doesn't really affect his kicking that much either, how he normally just lines up straight and hopes for the best. And I guess it worked out last year because he was a Big Ten Kicker of the Year. And he's, really excited to get fans back in the stadium, and said on Saturday, even with just a few thousand, that gave him a little bit of extra juice, that he could, even if he wasn't kicking, he could still feel that energy, and is excited to get that back in the spring game.
I'm excited to get to the spring game too. Hopefully it's a little warmer than it is today. We will have videos next week when Scott Frost talks on Monday, and then we're going to have a full spring game preview video, and then we'll also have a recruiting preview, because I suspect they're going to have a bunch of guys in the stands, including a couple of quarterbacks, and that'll be notable and important for Nebraska. So we'll have a couple of previews next week. We'll also have a full recap after Monday's practice, which I believe will involve Scott Frost. For Abby Barmore, I'm Sam McKewon. Thanks for listening with the Omaha World-Herald, Big Red Today, and Omaha.com.